It is now 7:15. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor, the City of Cotulla, Texas will hold a regular meeting at the Alexander Convention Center, 295 North IH-35 Access Road, Cotulla, Texas, 78014, at 7 p.m. on Thursday, May 28, 2020. Council will have the option to attend in person or by conference call. The citizens of Cotulla will also be able to listen to the meeting by video conference. Roll call. I believe we have two councilmen not present. Did Mr. Ayala call?
No.
If not, Councilman, I don't know if you want to excuse Mr. Ayala or not. I need a motion.
I'm not going to excuse him due to the fact that if I can be here, that city councilman can be there, and this one here.
I got a first motion not to excuse Mr. Ayala. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. Mr. Gonzalez, I don't know, Councilman, if you want to excuse Mr. Gonzalez. He did phone call?
He did make a phone call and told me that something had occurred and that he couldn't make it.
I will make the first motion to excuse Mr. Gonzalez at this time.
I got a first motion to excuse Mr. Gonzalez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ayala. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to everybody, please join me on the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens to be heard. In order to limit the number of people in attendance per the governor's order, public comments will be only accepted in writing no later than 30 minutes in advance of the meeting by sending them to City Secretary Bianca Maldonado at bianca.m.citysecretary@gmail.com. City Council will not discuss any present issue, nor may any action be taken on any given issue at this time. Do we have any written?
No, we do not.
No written citizens to be heard. Since we have some people from out of town, I'd like to move on to item number 8. Presentation of financial statements by Mr. Jorge Flores. Mr. Flores, are you here?
Mayor, Councilman, good evening. Almost forgot what you all look like. It's been a while.
Yes, sir, it has.
The first report is the sales tax report. For the month of May, the city received $136,527. And for the year, we're at $1,182,848, 8% less than last year. Second report is the hotel motel report. So we have both April and May totals. For April, the city collected $94,257. For May, $80,311. So we're at $174,568 for the quarter. About $100,000 less than last year, but we still have some hotels that haven't paid.
We still got some pending?
Yes.
We have two.
We got two pending?
Yes.
Okay.
Then we have the statement of revenues and expenditures. Page number 1, general fund revenues, $1,438,918. On page number 4, total expenses for $1,470,266 for a deficit of $31,348. Now, keep in mind that we did budget $250,000 from fund balance. We knew it was gonna be a tight year. So at the end of the year, we still might have some negatives in the general fund, but we did budget for that.
That's for the general fund, right?
Yes.
General fund.
On page number 5, water sewer fund, total revenues, $961,017. Next page, total expenses of $656,867 for net income of $304,149. The gas fund on the next page, total revenues $190,183. Total expenses of $148,015 for a net profit of $42,167. And on page number 8, the solid waste fund, total revenues $473,196. Total expenses of $606,405 for net loss of $133,209. We've had a lot of vehicle repair expenses this year on the solid waste fund.
That's the one on the trash truck and
The
the
trash truck,
rollover,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Are there any questions?
Some of the items that we have already expended that were not initially budgeted are gonna be coming under the CARE Act, and we have been notified by the congressman that the city will receive an allocation of $220,000. We can automatically ask for 20% of that figure, which is about $44,000. When we were notified that there was gonna be a shutdown, we immediately took a lot of staff, used a lot of overtime, and moved to the new facility. And so we ended up making expenditures and adjusting hours and giving people time off. And those are hours lost in items which were not budgeted in the current budget. And we're compiling a list, and we intend to make a request for those particular funds. In addition, we have had to purchase equipment, such as the equipment that we're currently using tonight, in order to be able to have these meetings. And so there's been different expenditures over time, the issue with the mask, the hand sanitation, different things. We've had to do overtime with our guys in order to take care of all the trash. Our water utility guys have been working on overtime. And so we have a lot of expenditures that were not allocated in the budget,
Correct.
which we intend to apply for reimbursement. Just so you know. But overall, the budget looks good, and the slowdown is manageable, and I think we'll do well at the end of the year.
Even though that we had these other expenditures and all that.
Yes.
Councilman, any other questions for Mr. Flores?
No, sir.
If not, Mr. Flores, thank you very much for that report.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
Moving on to item number 9, discussion and possible action to approval to engage Tejerina Galvan Lawrence LLC as financial advisors for the proposal general obligation refund bonds, Series 2020, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
This is a contract acquiring the services of Tejerina Galvan and Lawrence, working as financial advisors for the city in order to work on the refunding bonds that we have later on the agenda. And I would recommend that you approve the contract with them, representing us for that particular item.
Council members, Councilman, if you don't have any other questions, I need a first motion
Make a
on
motion.
item number 9.
Mayor, I would just like to add, I haven't seen the engagement letter, so I'd like to take a look at it. I mean, I've done a bunch of these, so.
May we
We
approve
probably
it?
did one.
So
with
can
them.
we approve
we
it
approve it
contingent
pending?
on your
Yeah,
review?
yeah, it's the
Pending
same,
review?
same deal.
Okay.
I need a first motion to approve item number 1 pending review, a letter by our counselor, city
Motion
councilor.
made. I made a motion.
First motion made by Mr. Ayala, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to item number 10, presentation by Mario Obledo Jr. of the San Antonio Food Bank, who we are, how we help, and how we help in the community.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Mario Blado Jr., and I'm Chief of Government and Public Affairs at your San Antonio Food Bank. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come say a few words on who we are, how we work, how we help. On behalf of our President and CEO, Eric Cooper, our board, our organization, thank you for the leadership that you provide to this community, to the residents that live in the city of Cotulla. I do have some brochures here. If you don't mind, I can leave them here or
Yeah,
hand
just-
them out.
Thank you.
That brochure talks about our government relations program. Within our 16-county footprint that we serve in Southwest Texas, I handle government relations, so all levels of government, city, county, state, and federal, connecting with elected officials and government officials and staff to just create advocacy on how we're working and the need in our service territory and the communities that we serve. A little bit on food banking. If you look at the country safety net is really set up in the way of 200 food banks. We are one of 200, and we're part of a national organization known as Feeding America. In our great state of Texas, we're part of the state safety net, and we're part of Feeding Texas, our state association. We're one of 21 food banks. All 254 counties in the state of Texas are covered by a food bank service territory. And again, we cover 16 counties in Southwest Texas. In the brochure that you have before you, there is a map, and it shows the areas that we cover. We go all the way up to Rock Springs, to Edwards County. We're at Camal, the New Braunfels, Carnes City down there. We come all the way down here to LaSalle. We're in Crystal City, Uvalde, Medina, Bandera, and everything in between there. Within that 16-county footprint, before the COVID-19 crisis, we were assisting nearly 58,000 individuals in any given week in terms of emergency food assistance. With the pandemic, that number has basically doubled. We're serving roughly 120,000 individuals in any given week in terms of emergency food assistance. And the way we do that is through partners. And in the 16-county footprint, we partner up with about 530 to 50 nonprofit organizations in order to get our food and resources out. So if you think of a bank, the food bank works in a similar fashion. At a bank, you deposit money in, and then money is dispensed out. At the food bank, food, money, and resources are deposited in and then dispensed out to the 530 to 50 organizations. And those organizations can be anything from a Boys and Girls Club, a soup kitchen, a shelter, a senior center. The majority of them are faith-based, located at a church known as a food pantry. Now, the folks that are depositing into the food bank are anyone from a farmer and rancher to food producer, processor, wholesaler, reseller, large grocery retailers like H-E-B, Costco, Walmart, Trader Joe's, so on and so forth. We're receiving about a semi-truckload an hour at the food bank traditionally from those type of folks, or our trucks are out on the road picking up from large grocery retailers and other places and bringing that product and depositing it into the food bank. Now, when that truckload comes to the food bank, that product is offloaded, weighted, screen scanned, put into inventory, and then the partners that I referred to, once they're certified and they come on board, they can do virtual shopping online. They can see what's in inventory and submit an order appropriate for the amount of clients that they're serving. Our clients one and the same. So if you think of the food bank as, logistically speaking, a hub or a distribution center, if you ever want to come out to the food bank for a tour, my contact information is on the back of that brochure, so please feel free to reach out. We give tours to federal officials, state officials, again, county and city. So we get a variety of folks coming through. We're about 210,000 square feet of freezer, cooler, warehouse, and office space located off 151, just above Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio. And we do have a couple of footprints in terms of a produce packing shed in Pearsall. We are located at Haven for Hope, the homeless comprehensive program in San Antonio. We're providing the meals, 3 meals a day to that population, so we're running the kitchen there. And then we do have a footprint up in New Braunfels, Texas, known as the New Braunfels Food Bank. Miniature version of us, 28,000 square foot, state-of-the-art stucco food bank that serves that fast-growing region. If you log on to safoodbank.org, you'll be able to access our programs and services to see how we're working and helping. Anything ranging from culinary training, workforce development, helping folks find a job, folks that are unemployed or underemployed or need continuing education or help with their resume. We also have senior programs, kids programs, like summer feeding, USDA programs, and also pet food programs as well. We receive a lot of pet food in to where we can supplement a household that might be struggling and deciding to let go of that pet family friend. A lot of senior households, by the way, are single member households, and that cat or dog is their best friend, their only friend in the house. So we're able to supplement by doing that. We're also doing a lot around farm and ag. We have an extensive farm and ag program there at the food bank. We have goats and sheep and chickens, hydroponics and aquaponics, and we're farming about 30 acres. We're located on about 40 acres roughly collectively, but 30 acres is under ag where we're growing fresh fruits and vegetables. And then we're also farming down on the Mission Reach, Mission San Juan and San Antonio, 50 plus acres there where we partnered up with the National Park Service. We're doing that because we do a lot around nutrition education. We have a team of nutritionists that are teaching folks how to eat healthy, a holistic approach to fighting hunger. A lot of creative recipes around produce. About 40 to 50% of what we normally give out is fresh produce. And so they're teaching folks how to prepare that produce and also budget a household dollar when folks are on a fixed income. We're working with households on that as well. But we have an array of information on the website. We do have a client services call center. Information is on the website. You can call the food bank and access assistance when it comes to government benefit programs like WIC, TANF, and Medicaid, long-term care for seniors, CHIP for kids, and SNAP, formerly known as food stamps. Our staff is getting folks screened and applied for those programs, and then sending that off to the state, HHSC. They determine eligibility, and then if they're eligible for those programs, their Lone Star card is lit up and they can go into HEB and swipe that for groceries for their families. We do partner up here in this community with the county. So the county judge and commissioners, they provide us funding, and Ariana Rios, I have to give her recognition. We actually had a food distribution in the community today. And she works tirelessly with volunteers and folks in order to distribute the food that our trucks are bringing down and offloading, and they're breaking that product up and preparing it to give out to folks that are in need. So with the pandemic, it's been unreal. You've probably seen in the paper or heard on the news, a lot of the folks that we're serving, the numbers have been skyrocketing. We have a lot of new clients, folks that maybe lost a job because of the pandemic, so in the service industry, restaurants, and other businesses, new clients coming to us. We normally work in the fashion of moving folks from crisis to self-sufficiency. And so right now we're trying to stabilize a lot of households and people's lives are trying to provide that basic nourishment to them. And so many folks line up at our distributions, not only in San Antonio and Bexar County, but throughout our 15 counties where we're doing mega distributions. So do know that food banks are here to serve. We are here to serve you. We are your food bank. If you ever have a need, feel free to reach out, and we'll be here to help your community. We are part of the EOC strategy, so Emergency Operations Centers, national, state, and local. If there's ever a hurricane, fire, flood, natural disaster, man-made disaster like government shutdown, or now pandemics, crisis like we're facing now. Food banks are mobilized. We're the boots on the ground providing food and water to folks that maybe were impacted in a negative way, and working with municipalities and the Red Cross in a lot of those situations. So, with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions if you have any of me. But do know we're there for you, and we're a phone call, an email, or a text away, 24/7.
Councilman, any questions for Mr. Robledo?
I appreciate your help. Appreciate it.
With the service that you're currently providing, do you believe that all the needs in the community are being served? Or do you feel that there is a segment of the population that is currently not being served?
That's a good question. And I think, we believe that there are a lot more new clients. We can always do more and serve more. It's recognizing the need, filling the gap, and relying on folks, in my case, working with governments, to identify needs and letting us know where we can step in or fill that gap if we're not meeting it. Right now, the county's doing everything they can to work with us so we can fill those pantries of those households that have been struggling. But we feel that there's going to be a new wave of clients. We've already been seeing them. And we don't know how long this pandemic will continue, even though the state and communities are reopening. We're closely watching the situation with our national organization and state association to be able to address anything that's going to be coming late summer and winter. Coupled with that, keeping an eye on National Hurricane Service and potential storms in the Gulf of Mexico.
So you had a food distribution today. Did everybody who was in line get served?
As far as I know. If there's anyone that didn't get served, or if they ran out of food, then all they need to do is let us know, and so we can plan accordingly to serve those folks.
Do y'all keep like a record of the people that get help with commodities?
Yes. So basically, they're controlled distributions. So we do have sign-in sheets that staff use. On our website now, we've been developing more of our software component to be able to serve in the way of a more user-friendly, pre-registered type of strategy. So our distributions are pre-registered events. Folks can log on there, and actually today our staff was uploading some more software, working on some more strategies, so our rural communities can have access to a lot of the information pertaining to our distributions, and we can get more folks pre-registered and then use that. We partner up with USDA and TDA, so U.S. Department of Agriculture and Texas Department of Agriculture, and other state agencies on the programs and services that we run. But our programs are pretty much controlled programs, and we have to report back to the state and the feds, and so we require that our partners do the same. So we do a lot of record keeping and ask them to do the same, and they receive a lot of training.
That record keeping, is it stated in your system or it stays in the local government?
So, for instance, at a distribution, there should be sign-in sheets, and folks should be taking a record of that and then providing that to our staff.
I am the president of a nonprofit housing corporation, not here, but in another community. And it is what is called a 202 housing corporation, which is for elderly and handicap. And I believe that there is one similar unit here in town where the I think they're called Vista Verde apartments, and there are, I want to say 30, 40 units. In our particular arrangement with the food bank, those people that live in those apartment complexes get a bag of groceries that is done for them, and they come in, and the residents that live, they actually come into the apartment complex and deliver those bags of groceries to the individual apartments. Is there a possibility of doing something like that with that local nonprofit?
We can certainly reach out and connect and see what we can do to partner and assist.
Because that way those people that are there, if they have no form of transportation, actually get the services without having to travel to wherever the distribution is going to take place.
Right. We have some similar strategies going on now with the pandemic and the crisis in San Antonio, homebound delivered grocery products, and certainly we're open to partnering and helping where we can. And so all it is just coordinating and setting up a call or a meeting and seeing how we can meet that need there at that complex.
Okay.
Councilman, any other questions?
I got no question.
About how much tonnage of groceries do you bring in to LaSalle County on itself?
So a distribution could be anything from 20,000 pounds of groceries. It can be anything from 11 pallets at a distribution or more. We're trying to get out more product now. It can be up to 22 pallets of grocery products. The San Antonio Food Bank, our warehouse, we're receiving a lot of product coming in with respect to federal and state aid right now. So a lot of fresh product is coming in, and we have to push that product out. So actually we're looking at leaning on our partners to look for access points of bringing more fresh fruits and vegetables and nourishment to communities. So we are letting folks know that we can bring an extra truckload, or we can coordinate other distribution points if needed. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilman?
I appreciate it.
If not, I appreciate your time and getting here, your travel time and everything, and you have a safe trip, and thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you very much, and if there's any follow-up you need, feel free to reach out. We'll certainly connect and get you what you need. So thank you very much.
Certainly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And be safe.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you too, sir.
Me too.
Thank you.
Well, moving on to item number 17. Discussion and possible action on approving financial form of master service agreement with CDM Smith for professional engineering services.
Mayor, this was an item that was carried over from the last meeting. The council had selected CDM Smith under the Professional Services Agreement Act. The particular agreement allows him to do any work for which they would be qualified. My understanding is this is water and wastewater. And Ms. Barna and I have been in communication over the last couple of weeks. We have an agreement, which I believe she has, that I've already looked at and is ready to be signed by you, and would then be countersigned by whoever it is that's going to sign for it. We just finalized it the last couple of days.
Okay. Right now?
Yeah, we want to. Has to be approved by council first.
All right. You want to come over here, Ms. Burke? I apologize, we're having technical issues with our microphone, so. Would you like to say anything?
So we were able to basically discuss everything in the agreement, and I'm just looking forward to working with y'all, continue working with you on upcoming water, wastewater projects. Have enjoyed the work we've been doing, and just appreciate you considering that so we can get started. Also, just wanted to advise Mayor and Council that we're also looking at stimulus funds that might be coming out. And if there's any funds that are available for infrastructure, that's something I'm going to keep an eye out on for the city. There's a lot of low-interest loans and grants that are expected to come out, possibly through EPA, through federal stimulus. And so I've already talked with Mr. Dovalina about any potential for that. So I'll continue to dog that as legislation's moving forward in case there's some additional opportunities for the city.
Great.
Excellent, excellent.
So I've already approved it, so just another vote. Yes, we're approving the final form, and then you guys sign it.
Okay.
If I could
Councilman,
get
any questions?
A copy of the actual executed agreement sent to me.
Okay.
They come in handy when somebody can't find it.
Stacy, at this time, what projects are you working on at this time?
There is a initial offering by the Texas Water Development Board of floodplain mapping that is going on for planning, and there is a 15-day, I guess the deadline for submittal is June the 15th. It basically requires an application indicating that you have an interest, and they're going to prioritize the areas that would be submitted. The first project that we're interested in is in the last 2 or 3 years, we've accumulated all of the property on Mustang Creek, and we intend to submit a planning process for Mustang Creek so that we can actually start moving in the direction of creating a floodplain and doing improvements on the creek to be able to condense the floodplain map from what it currently is, so that people who are mortgaging properties and building houses in that area don't have to pay flood insurance. In some cases, some people are paying as much as $3,000 for that floodplain insurance, and we want to be able to mitigate that by doing the planning and the process that goes moving forward to construction and improvement of the creek.
On that floodplain, I know we purchased a lot of properties along the creek. Is that going to be placed with gravel, or is it going to be done like in cement?
You don't have an idea what is currently there. I have seen a lot of projects that have been done in the process of doing that. The initial steps are all about drawing plans on how you're going to get rid of the water, how you're going to get the water to go by faster. Typically, it is you create a lost my train of thought. You create something called a pilot channel, which is usually a 10-foot strip of concrete that goes down the middle of that channel, and then you do amenities on the sides that can provide a linear park space for the community, and you can do jogging trails, you can do all sorts of things. But the initial step, the very first step on how you're going to deal with it and how you're going to get a floodplain map done, is to make the application process and to do the planning for that particular structure first. There are some series of steps, and this would be the very first step.
Correct.
It is the first time that the Texas Water Development Board actually gets involved in floodplain management and in mitigating flooding areas. And so this is a first for Texas, and so it's a learn-as-you-go type of adventure. And that's why we want to make sure that our application goes in and that it's there for them to review, select, and to see where we go from there, to see if we're selected as one of the priorities, and perhaps being able to get money to provide a planning grant or to do something similar to that so that we can start the process.
And those are parts of the grants that you're talking about, right?
Well, that's the flood infrastructure
Yeah.
fund is brand new.
For the
That's basically was
infrastructure.
created out of Harvey, and that's actually through the state of Texas. So there is opportunity for low interest loan, but a lot of it is grant in
Yes.
there, and that's what we're hoping to get through
Okay.
that planning study. And then the other funds I'm watching are more of federal funds that are potential grants for other types of projects. So really looking at everything funding, but the first priority is this flood infrastructure fund funding we're looking at.
Mr. Dovalina, do we have additional properties that we have to obtain on the creek? Additional?
I want to say of all the properties that we initially thought would be needed, we have 2 or 3 pending that were not purchased. And the reason for that is they've got other issues that are not easily resolved. And so we're still working with those property owners, but 90% of what we need has already been purchased by the city.
What is the timeline on the funding for this
The
particular project?
deadline for the initial application process is June the 15th.
And we've been working on this project a very long time on Mustang Creek, so I'm kind of excited to take the first step and, you know,
The
Get the-
current,
get the
the current
map
floodplain
done.
map that you have was a flyover that was done by the Army Corps of Engineers, I want to say in the 50s or in the 60s, using the technology that was then available. And I know in looking at the floodplain map that there are properties listed there that in 100 years won't ever get flooded. And so in order to make the change, you have to start the process and you need to start the mapping so that you can get the changes necessary because they have to go through the Corps of Engineers at some point in time. And then once you determine the changes that need to be made, you discuss what structures need to be built in the channels to make the water flow rapidly, and then you make the permanent changes once those structures are done. But it's clearly something that has not been done in this community for a very, very long time. And the people that are suffering, paying for floodplain insurance are the young people that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s who are currently building houses in these areas. And their mortgages are requiring them to get that floodplain insurance.
And once they get that floodplain developed and their infrastructure, then the insurances for those people that live along the channel would reduce.
Because if you can imagine, the floodplain map is this way. Once you do the structure, it comes all the way down to the area.
Narrow down.
And it's got to do with the water that is being displaced and how fast that water goes through the creek. And currently you have stagnant water in all the creek because the creek hasn't been properly engineered and the elevations are not there for the water to continuously run.
Correct. That sounds good for me.
Councilman, any other questions on item number 17? If not, I need a first motion to approve item number 17.
So move.
First motion by Mr. Lopez, I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ayala, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to come back to item number 5, departmental and committee reports.
We have provided all of you written reports on all of the different departments. Of a particular note is the water report. We are almost at a stage where we are finishing the construction of the new water well. We believe that next week we will get AEP to do the connection for our electricity in that area. Once that's done, we will be doing water testing and disinfection of the well. We will provide 3 consecutive water samples to TCEQ of that water. And once the water passes those particular tests, that water system will interconnect to our current water system to provide us with flow of water. With the recent rain and the lack of fracking activity in the community, we are now at about 50 feet higher than we were 2 months ago, and our current water table is at 511 in the wells that we monitor. And we believe that with the continued rain that will increase. Hopefully going into June, we will be somewhere in the range of about 490, 480. But you know, we're happy that we have this new well that will be under production and connected to our system at that point in time. And we will also have the capability of going out on bids for the new water tank, which will be at a location where the public works yard is. It'll be at the corner of the public works yard, and it'll be an elevated structure to be able to increase or keep the pressure within our community to a certain level. And we also have a water line construction project that'll loop around the airport to the new terminal and back to the line, which will be starting construction relatively soon. All the other activities we have been able to continue in the process. We have been very diligent as far as sanitation, making sure we pick up the trash, making sure the city is keeping up with the day-to-day activities that we currently have within the community. But you can read them in your written reports that we provided. We also provided you with pictures and some footnotes on the work that is being done at the Stockman's Bank building. The Stockman's Bank building, the initial phase of the work is almost finished. We've got about a week left. We will board up the windows, and the people who are doing the work are going to take all the lintels of the windows and the other areas that have openings in that building, and they will do those windows over the course of the summer at their shop, and then they will come back and put those areas in place. We are making sure that we follow all the historical procedures that we need to follow, and we're being told that at some point in time we can recover some of the money that we're using in the structure because we can apply for historical tax credits that apparently large corporations buy to use as tax credits for their companies, and the tax credits that we're going to apply for can in fact be sold to individuals who need to use tax credits. And so we will recover some of the money that we've already spent in the structure once Texas Historical Commission looks at the facility and acknowledges that in fact we did the restoration in a proper way. The people that are doing the work are recognized historical preservationists, and they're doing an excellent job with what they're doing, and that building after this year will probably have the ability to be functional so that we're able to put somebody in there either as offices or a shop or even a museum that can then be open to the general public. If anybody has any questions on any of the reports, I would be happy to try to answer them.
On that building, the city will be able to get, to lease it out or rent it out to outside people?
You can do that,
to
and
bring revenue back?
There's different suggestions that have come in. I know that recently there was a gentleman looking to put in a shoe repair place. He was looking for a building. It is something that the city can encourage as an economic development issue to try to bring in other businesses into the Front Street area that would serve the community. And certainly things such as what that man was looking for are things that we can try to put into those buildings.
Like a bank branch or something like that, or?
That may be a little bit harder to do, but you can use a building as a business incubator, and basically what it is that you create some office space and you allow people who are starting a business don't have to put out a lot of money to rent an office and to do all these things, and you basically allow them to use a computer, allow them to use a Xerox machine, and you have those cubicles in the building that will help you start small businesses in the community, and it's called a business incubator.
Yeah.
And you can certainly do it in that structure or a structure like that.
Would it work, Mr. Dovalina? I know it's in order to make revenue for the city government and make something for the community, for kids, like charging them a fee to go in and play video games or pool tables or something like that, with it using the motel hotel tax for that, or
No.
it doesn't work like that?
No, you can't do that. You can do you can try to get a historic building or some sort of a community center, and there's some ideas that are floating around the community on where to do that and to how to do that.
Correct.
We do have another idea in mind that is going to come back to you as a committee from an area around Plaza Florita, but that's not yet hatched, and so there is a committee still dealing with it, but it talks about exactly what you're suggesting, that we create a community center which serves a different population. There currently isn't any service to people under 60 years old, for instance. The county has a nutrition center. It has activities that are done at that particular center, but it serves a different age group, and there is a age group below that level that is currently underserved, and that's why we're talking about, unfortunately, a water-related park, which has other issues because of the virus. But we do think that there is a possibility to do a community-type center that would have those activities that you're suggesting.
Like for people to have like a bingo thing,
Yes.
That's all I got.
And that'll be coming forward in the next months or so.
Mr. Dovalina, on this issue about the incubator, about the business of the old Stockbridge National Bank, can we supposedly get the Chamber of Commerce involved in bringing people into the main into downtown again, to get the chamber working with the city together to promote the downtown to where we can get these buildings occupied at this time?
The city always works with the chamber in different activities. We attend their meetings. We try to incorporate some of our activities to make sure that the chamber is there. We have a link on the chamber webpage back to the city services to Main Street and those areas. And so we're developing more and more activities that are interlinked with the Chamber of Commerce. And so in the future, I think you'll see much more coordination.
Councilman, any other questions on departmental reports? If not, moving on to item number 6, approval of minutes, May 7th, 2020. I don't know if you guys had time to look them over. Were there any changes made to the minutes? No? Excellent. If you had time to review them, I need a first motion to approve item number 6.
I'll make a motion to approve.
First motion made by Mr. Garcia. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ayala. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7. Discussion and possible action on an ordinance authorizing the insurance of the City of Cotulla, Texas General Obligation Refunds Bond Series 2020, providing for the payment of the bonds by the levy of an ad valorem tax upon all taxable properties within the city, and providing other matters related thereto.
Mayor, thank you again. For the record, Robert Tijerina.
Audience, this is Robert Tijerina is going to be doing a presentation on what bonds, refunding bonds, series of 2020. Mr. Tijerina.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, council members and Mr. Dovalina and staff. For the record, Robert Tijerina with Tijerina, Galvan, and Lawrence. And before I go into the presentation, I want to thank the mayor, council members, and Mr. Dovalina for the opportunity, your trust and support to represent the city as your financial advisor on this refunding. I really appreciate that. I personally represent the school district here, Cotulla ISD, as their financial advisor, represent the city of Pearsall and also the city of Carrizo Springs, along with the school districts at both communities. And I've been here since about 2011 as the financial advisor for the city of Cotulla before I started my own firm, and appreciate the opportunity. I've worked with Mr. Dovalina numerous years, not only here, but at the city of Laredo, and with Mr. Flores, not only here, Jorge Flores at LaSalle County, when I was their financial advisor, and also Zapata County. And I've worked closely with Mr. Jeff Snowden, I know, who's from here, 13, 14 years. I've worked closely with him as he's been a consultant for a lot of my clients also. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all so much. This item cannot have any action. We actually need another or council member to be in attendance in order to have a supermajority. So it's just going to be a presentation only. The numbers are factual, and we did receive an interest rate this morning from TIB. So if you turn to page 2, the refunding results, we received an interest rate of 2.04%. TIB, the Independent Bankers Bank, was the bank that submitted the lowest interest rate at 2.04%. So if this item could take action or could have action, we would be able to go from a 3.67% to 2.04%. And we're here a little over a month ago, or just shy of a month ago, and Mr. Dovalina had said, is there any way we could get close to 2% or even a little bit lower? And it was hard to tell. Interest rates were all over the place. At that time, the interest rate was about 2.34 to 2.4%. This morning, they submitted, three firms submitted interest rates. The lowest rate, 2.04. We received another rate, 2.78 from Frost Bank. And we also received another interest rate from 3.08%. And again, TIB was the lowest. That was our recommendation after talking to Mr. Dovalina this morning. And on page 2, the third column, or fourth column from the left in the shaded area, that would be the overall savings for the city of Cotulla. At the very bottom, roughly $618,000. And the debt service payment on the bonds we're looking to refinance, the debt overall came out to $3,856,000 of the city of Cotulla's existing debt. We're able to take that, and it went out, and it's the second column on the left, from 2020 all the way down to 2052. And we said, let's take that $3,856,000 and shorten it up. So the column next to that, third column from the left, refunding debt service, that would be your new principal and interest payments. The gray shaded column next to it would be pretty much the overall savings. This current fiscal year, you would save about $3,265. And then the next 5 years, you would save roughly $235,000, $233,000, $230,000, $226,000, and $226,000. Followed by the next 10 years, your payment would go up. On the next few pages, you would see how that would make a lot of sense in order to smooth things out for the city, because the next 5 years, or actually this next coming year, we know there's uncertainty. We presented this refunding opportunity back in November of 2019. That's the role of a financial advisor. Identify opportunities for you, not just to sit and wait for y'all to call us. Let's go out there and see what we could do for the city. Mr. Dovalina was interested in the financing. The first opportunity we had, again, to present it was last month. So again, the overall savings, $618,000. The interest rate goes from 3.67 to 2.04%. Net present value savings means, on the last column on the right, $406,000. That $618,000, what is it worth today at today's rates? $618 in the future is worth $416 currently. And some of y'all are probably thinking, okay, that $618,000 that we save overall, what does that equal to in the form of a tax rate? If we're going to save $618,000 for the community, what does that translate to in a tax rate? That's almost 32 cents, 31.5 cents overall. When you add it all together, that means in the life of the loan, you're going to save the taxpayers roughly $618,000, which comes out to 31.5 cents. Your property value is currently about $200 million. At about 98%, 1 penny generates about $19,000 in change. So when you do the math, that overall savings comes out to about 31.5 cents that you would be saving the taxpayers if it was going to be levied on the INS tax rate. Now on the next page, page 3, we worked closely with Mr. Dovalina and also with Mr. Flores. They were very helpful, and your bond counsel, Mr. Juan Aguilera, worked with him for 20 years in this industry. We're able to sort out, after I met with y'all last month, to decide, okay, what exactly does the city have outstanding on the debt? Because the website, Municipal Advisory Council, they were off. So in that few days, 3 or 4 or 5 days, we're able to, 4 of us, to work together, decide what does the city's debt look like, what is this website saying exactly, that we corrected them. Mr. Aguilera was able to contact them, tell them exactly the debt we're looking to refinance. Because a few years ago, the city, under Mr. Dovalina's recommendation, did a great job of paying off some debt years ago. Took some cash and you paid off some debt with USDA. And the financing that we're looking at last month when I was here was the Series 2011 COs, 4.25%. That was part of the presentation, about $459,000. You paid, everybody thought that debt was outstanding, but that debt was already paid off. So y'all did a great job years ago with the guidance of Mr. Dovalina. Y'all went ahead and said, let's pay off that high interest rate. So again, the financings that we were considering refinancing today was the Series 2009, about on the left to right, 682,000 USDA. Loan for water, 4.125%. The debt in the middle, 1,254,000 of the USDA for public improvements. The interest rate 3.5%, 3.5%. And the last debt on the right-hand side, Series 2014 COs. It was a Zion's loan that did some water and sewer and some other public improvements. And this was the balance that did the public improvements. The city did a great job of refinancing a little over $5 million with the Water Development Board, and it's not part of this. So again, these three financings were part of the debt that we were refinancing. So the next few pages are kind of important. On the very, very bottom, it says page 1 of 3. So columns D, E, and F. This consists of 8 financings that the city has outstanding. 8 certificates of obligations that the city issued since 2009. There's one for 2009, 2012, 2014, 17, 17A, 17B, and let's see, in 2017, and then also 2020, the Texas Water Development Board y'all issued just a few months ago. Mm-hmm. So you have the principal on column D, interest on E, and total on F. So we just shaded column L, because if you turn to the next page, the principal and interest and the total on the refunding, the $3,856,000 that we refinanced, is on columns H, I, and J. So the $3,008,000, the principal is on column H, interest on column I, total of column H and I is J. Principal and interest total is on column J. And then you have the new principal and interest total with your existing debt, and then the overall savings on column O. So the overall savings on column O is $618,811, which matches a few pages ago. But here is the last page I'll go over, and this is where we kind of laid everything out so you can make a comparison side by side. On the very bottom on the next page, it says page 3 of 3. On columns D and E is your principal and interest as you see it right now on your existing debt, those 8 financings I mentioned earlier, and the total on column F. Every year, the next few years, you're going to pay $1.3 million and change, $900,000, and at the very bottom on column F, row 144, the total of your principal and interest right now that you have with this current fiscal year, all the way down to 2057, is $30,687,057. By doing the refunding, the $3,856,000, you now go to a new principal on column H, a new interest amount on column I, and a new total on column J. So if this item were to take action or have an action item today, on column J, that would be your new principal and interest total. The difference, the savings, is on column L. So on column F, the total on 144, your old principal and interest amount was $30,687,000 and change. And if you go to column J, by refinancing that $3,856,000, the total goes from $30,687,000 to $30,068,246. A difference on column L at the very bottom, 144, $618,811. And again, this is the most important page because it shows you your old principal, your old interest, and the total versus the new structure. And again, this is something we identified, and it's our role as a financial advisor to help our clients see what we could do. This is something we did with Jim Hogg County last year and with other issuers that we represent. And Mr. Dovalina decided let's bring it on to the council last month. So again, on the next page, page 4, This is the sources and uses. The loan amount is $4,004,000. That's the sources of funds that we would be refinancing from the TIB. The use of funds, the refunding escrow cash deposit. So by refinancing $3,856,000 plus the cost of issuance comes out to $4,004,000. So the amount of $3,916,000 is going to go into an escrow account. That is going to pay off your old debt, which is the $3,856,000. It's going to pay it off, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Now you're at the lower interest rate with the newer payments. And again, a refunding is exactly like you would do refinancing your home. You're not going to be, you're not selling your home, you're not leaving your home. All you're doing is meeting two objectives: lower the interest rate, and you lower your monthly mortgage payments. So if my mortgage payment is $1,000 a month and my interest rate is 5% on my mortgage, if I can go out there and refinance it at 3.5%, I'm going to save about $250. So I go from making a monthly payment of $1,000 to $750 a month. It's exactly the same concept here. Lower the interest rate and you lower your overall payment. For the first 5 years, you increase it the latter part, but overall, you're saving $618,000.
And this is at 2.4%.
2.04.
Or 2.04.
2.04. And I think Mr. Dovalina kind of felt we'd be getting there. I don't know how you saw that 4 weeks ago. Is there any way we could get close to 2% or even lower? I couldn't guarantee that. We didn't know what was going to happen. But I can tell you for a fact, the numbers that the city has worked on, the council, the staff, Mr. Flores putting everything together. They asked for a lot of information. Mr. Dovalina was able to turn around. Bianca was able to turn around information. And Mr. Flores, they like the leadership here with Mr. Dovalina and the council. And again, the unaudited information Mr. Flores handed over. All of that was extremely helpful. And if you go to the next page, here's really key, and it's nothing personal, it's just given the times that we're in now. On page 5, these are all the banks that the placement agent was able to send all the information in the city of Cotulla to. The debt structure, the legal documents, everything. Every single one of these banks received that information. And we only received 3 bids back. And again, it's nothing negative reflected on the city. It's just the times that we're in, given the pandemic, the situation we're in, the price of the barrel, the uncertainty of, again, oil. A lot of people, either that scared them, or the amount was too small, or the amount was too large, or it's not close enough to any of their lending institutions, any of their banks. It could have been a combination of things, a number of things, but the 3 banks, again, or they had debt already outstanding with the city or with other issuers within the Eagle Ford Shale area. TIB submitted a 2.04%, Frost Bank submitted a 2.78%, and Key Bank submitted 3.08%. TIB gave an interest rate of 2.04%, and they said any time that you want to pay it off, it's callable anytime. At whatever you owe, that's what you owe, and you pay it off. There's no penalty, there's no premium. So you come into a windfall. And I was telling Mr. Dovalina, you hit a couple of wells here. The wind farm solar panels come in within the taxing jurisdiction of the city, and your bus sales tax picks up. You save a lot of money. You want to pay it off in 2 years. This loan, you can without any penalty or any kind of premium. So that's a unique thing here. The other banks were saying you couldn't pay it off within the first 5 years, or you couldn't pay it off the entire 15 years, even if you came into a windfall. So again, you got a low rate. You're able to pay it off at any time. And again, the next page is the timetable. General obligation refunding bonds. If this item was to be approved today, we would be able to close the financing on July the 15th, and then the bonds would be paid off by the escrow account on July the 16th. And on page 7, The working group participants, we have the city of Cotulla, Texas, financial advisor on this transaction, bond counsel, it's going to be on Ponic, the placement agent, FHN, Financial Capital Markets, and purchaser, and also the paying agent, TIB, which is acronym for the Independent Bankers Bank. They're very aggressive. They do a lot of these loans throughout Texas. So they were excited. They didn't know until they received the financials that the rate, because at first they were the indication that I came here a month ago, 2.4 to 2.34, without seeing the financials. Once they saw that, they felt confident. The leadership that's been here a while, the elected officials, staff, they were aggressive on the interest rate. They really wanted to help out the city and loan the money out. But again, unfortunately, we don't have the fourth member on the council to be able to take action on this. So if there's any guidance from Mr. Dovalina or the mayor, either to go back and after I leave here, I got to contact the placement agent. He will contact the bank. Let them know what y'all want, either to try to see if you can have another meeting on Monday or next week. It's no guarantee that they can hold the interest rate for a few days. They may say, let's wait until they decide. We'll reassess and see what kind of interest rate we can get. Our first thing is, if you want to bring this back next week, to see if they can still honor the 2.04% callable anytime.
And that's a good recommendation for you.
Absolutely. That's going to be, if that's something you want to try to do to meet, we just need a fourth member here, council member here. And they may come back to say, we can hold it, or they may say, let's wait and see when the meeting is. We'll give you a rate that morning.
We'll save some money, and it saves people's pocket money on the taxpayer side.
Absolutely. As
Right.
Mr. Dovalina said, save us some money. We're in uncharted territory. We don't know what next year, the rest of this year is going to look like, what next year is going to look like. We don't know if there's going to be another wave coming later this summer, in the fall, early next year, or we're going to be right back where we were before. So that's why we saved those first 5 years about $230,000 a year.
Just to clarify some issues. This is existing debt
Yes, sir.
that is being refinanced.
Yes, sir.
There are no additional taxes levied. In fact, when we prepare budgets, if this refinancing occurs, then there can actually be a lowering of taxes for the new budget year based on the figures that you're providing, and it would save the community and the taxpayers in the community money by getting the item approved, so that we can then be able to lower the cost of the tax rate in the budget. Is that correct?
Absolutely, sir.
And-
You are not looking to add, we're not adding any more debt. We're lowering it by $618,000. We're not increasing taxes. We're not asking the utility to increase utility rates to pay for the debt. You're saving yourselves and the community money by doing this finance.
$618,000 to be exact.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And this is with the 2.4,
2.0.
2.04.
Yes, sir.
with Frostbank, right?
It will
No.
be with
TIB.
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 Yes, sir,
TIB.
TIB. And so if the mayor and the council members, Mr. Dovalina wants me to go back, there's no action, we all know that. I can get in the car, communicate with the placement agent, they call the bank to see if they can hold the rate. And y'all decided there's gonna be another meeting next week to see if they can hold it then, or if they can readdress it and give us a refresh rate. It may be the same, it may be lower, or maybe a little higher. There's no guarantee depending on what's going on in the market. But if there's going to be a meeting next week, we can come back to see if we have a supermajority.
Excellent. I believe we are going to have a meeting. We'll set up another meeting for next week. This is something that our community needs, and obviously everybody wants lower taxes, and then we always want a savings. So this is something that we should take action as soon as possible so we can get this done. So
Absolutely.
is there any more questions for Mr. Tejerina?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mayor,
If
council
not-
members, Mr. Dovalina, again, for the opportunity to represent the city. And truth be told, I'd love to come back and represent y'all for years to come. Not
Yes,
only
sir.
on this
Thank you very much for
finances.
that
We appreciate it.
presentation, very
Thank
thorough
you.
presentation.
Thank you very much. Y'all take
Thank
care
you,
and have
sir.
a great night. Stay safe. Be safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll do a 3-minute recess. All right, back in session. Moving on to item number 11. Discussion and possible action to consider the condition of the following structures and take appropriate action to declare them a public nuisance and require abandonment and/or take appropriate remedial action pursuant to Texas Health Code and Safety Code and Section 342.440.
Mayor, I haven't spoken to Melissa about this, but she has been doing a lot more than had been done for quite a while in the municipal code compliance department. So what we had done in the past was we would approve the list, publish it in the newspaper, and then we would send out a notice basically saying, hey, look, you've got until such and such a day to do something. If you don't, we're just going to move on it. Now, one of the problems that we run into is that a lot of these homes that people have died, or these are homes that have been in disrepair for a long period of time, and the children who may or may not have lived in these homes are now living up in Wisconsin or Illinois or whatever. So sometimes
Correct.
we don't even have good addresses on who's actually still around that could possibly take care of it. But what we have done in those circumstances, and we can do it, is that if we can't find the address, we'll just put the notice on the structure. And then I don't know if we've gotten contacted. I guess once we publish this and send the notices, we may get some responses back, and typically these people are usually more than happy for you to take the property down, and they just file a lien on it, which is a preferred lien in the event that the property is ever sold. Say, for example, for a delinquent ad valorem taxes, our lien has to be satisfied first, and then the tax lien. So, obviously Mel's seen them. We've got pictures somewhere, I don't have them, of the home. So I'd ask you to approve the list. We'll publish it in the next issue of the Current, and go through the process.
Follow
We've done
procedure.
this 4 or 5 times already.
It's a 30-day process.
And the city typically takes them down with a backhoe, and
Correct.
it's about a $1,500 job, I think, something like that, which is cheap.
It varies up to what, sir, 2,500 depending on the size of the structure?
Yes.
Excellent.
And just for those who don't know, many times, once the nuisance is cleared up, you will see an interest in some of the neighbors, wanting to purchase the properties, and especially if they're adjoining properties, and one, to prevent it from going back like it was, and two, to, now it's cleaned up, they don't
Cleaned
have
up
to
and
mess
used.
with it.
Councilman, any questions on item number 11?
The reason is these properties are
They're dilapidated
being
structures.
addressed at this time by the city attorney and the code enforcement officer. Is the reason that I see that it devalues the adjacent property owners, and it devalues their property in value if they ever decide to sell. Of course, common sense will tell you, don't purchase property around dilapidated buildings or vacant lots that are high weeds and everything, because the fire hazard is there.
Right.
That your house can burn down, your adjacent neighbors can burn down. We're trying to do this to clean the city up. It's not to address certain people, that we're picking on certain people. It's time for us to take pride in our community, and it's time for us to take responsibilities of what our properties, the owners that we are the owners of these properties. We need to take responsibilities and to our fellow neighbors and work together to clean up the community together with the city, Cotulla.
Absolutely, and many of these homes may be delinquent in taxes. We don't know that necessarily. Usually one follows the other. The home's in disrepair, that you've got, absentee landowners or people that may not even realize that they still have an interest in the home, and the values are pretty low, and these are, I'm sure at least some of these are delinquent on their taxes.
Yeah, but most of them are dilapidated, and they are falling down, and it is an eyesore for a lot of the community, especially the neighbors that live by there.
Not to pick on Cotulla, this is in every city. You got them.
What Mr. Lopez said, it's true. We are doing this to clean up and take some pride in our town. So,
absolutely.
Any questions, Councilman? If not, I need a first motion to approve it. Item number 11.
So move.
First motion made by Mr. Lopez. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 12, discussion and possible action to enter into an agreement with Jason Fletcher for the clearing of brush and overgrown grass in 2 lots located on Ligarda Street.
This is a request by the individual. The last time that we had some flooding from the noises, it backed up into his mobile home. And what he's attempting to do is to create a berm. And so he has offered to go in to the property that the city has and basically clean up the brush and debris and form this berm to be able to protect himself as well as the lots that we currently have. The lots are brushy and overgrown. We currently have a lift station at one of those locations. And so it's beneficial to the city that we go into the agreement with this gentleman. He is asking for nothing in return. He basically just wants permission to be able to do that. And it's a self-operated type of activity. He does the work and uses his machinery to do the work, and it doesn't cost the city anything. I told him that I would bring it to council, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to do that or not. But it is beneficial to the city.
I'll make a motion.
Council? There's been a motion made to approve it. It's made by Mr. Ayala. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 13, we are tabling that item. Moving on to item number 14, discussion and possible action on a request submitted by the LaSalle County Chamber of Commerce requesting a 5-year office contract to continue to run business from the Alexander Convention Center.
Mayor, this is the first time I've seen this, but do we have an existing
No.
contract with them?
The issue came up because there's no existing contract for their using the space that is currently being used. Traditionally, they had an office in this area before we did the remodeling. When they did the remodeling, they approached council. Council allowed them to continue to have the space that they currently have, but there isn't any existing agreement, and so their leadership wanted to formalize a contract approved by council. So I would suggest that you recommend to staff and to Mr. Peña that we prepare a contract for them to be able to have a document that says that the city council allows them to be on the facility for a certain period of time, renewable after that period of time, or whatever the wishes of the council are.
This is something that can easily be done. We have, in the last many years, tried to formalize agreements that we have with various entities that we've allowed to do things. And anybody that this isn't a grant per se, but as far as I know, there's no rent being paid. So we have something called a public purpose contract, which basically says, hey, look, we're going to let you do this. We value the rent at whatever it is. We're not going to charge you for that. But it's essentially a gift to them because you're not charging them for doing that. You may, and this may or may not be currently being done, is require them to have liability insurance, things of that sort. I don't know what they have. I know they have employees, and so they must have some kind of workers' compensation or something. So those are the things we would require. It is something that it's a housekeeping matter, and I'm glad that they brought that up, and it does need to be addressed.
Excellent, excellent. Councilman, any
So
questions?
the mayor would just ask for approval, and I'll bring something back the next meeting.
I need a motion to approve item number 14.
Make a motion.
First motion made by Mr. Ayala. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 15, discussion and possible action on a request submitted by Casera Alvarado to place a 1998 Palm Harbor manufactured home on Vela Street.
We had a previous meeting where Mr. Alfredo Zamora came in and indicated that he had some homes that he was going to put up for sale. This is one of those homes. The current ordinance has a 2004 designation or better for mobile homes to be approved, to be moved in the location. The mobile home is approved in its current state where it currently exists. We asked the individual for pictures that would be provided showing the condition of the home. We provided you with the pictures. We leave it up to the discretion of the council to approve or disapprove. The mobile home appears to be in fairly good condition. It looks like there's been some work done to the walls, the sinks, and some other cabinetry. But it's up to the wishes of the council, whatever it is that you want us to do.
Mayor, this is a recurring issue in a community where housing is not readily available. You don't have a lot of new construction. Single-family homes tend to be older, and the people that are requesting these variances are typically people who have limited options.
I agree.
What I can tell you is that this is fairly commonplace, and as long as the structure has been inspected and it's been looked at by the code compliance officer and would meet the other requirements for reconnection to utilities, obviously being moved from one place to another, it is a decision, it is a policy decision, but at the same time, I want to make sure that that the city understands this isn't unique to Cotulla. And again, I don't know the lady, I don't know anything about her, but I do know the housing options typically for people that are asking for this are usually somewhat limited.
I understand. Councilman, any questions on that? Any issues?
That's the trailer.
Was she already living in this and she just bought it from him? Do we know?
I don't know.
No, it hasn't been moved just yet.
But it is inside the city limits.
Because there's like furniture.
Yeah.
Councilman,
May I see
did
those
you have a
photos?
chance to review the pictures?
The trailer house is in good shape.
I think that as we see these things, and hopefully we don't see them that often, but the structural integrity is what's important. It doesn't have to be a beautiful home. We don't regulate that. But if the home is otherwise structurally sound and can be occupied,
Livable.
right.
Did you have time to review that, Mr. Lopez?
Fine.
Everybody else,
motion.
Councilman? If no further questions on item number 15, I need a first motion to approve it. First motion made by Mr. Ayala, second made by Mr. Garcia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 16, discussion and possible action on the request submitted by Jeanette Perales to place a 12 by 44 utility shed cabin at 1503 Matamoros Street to use as a residence.
Mayor, this is a request that I would assume is coming forward because at the last meeting, you approved a similar situation from another party.
Correct.
The other party in the last meeting has had nothing but problems in the approval. First of all, when you approved it, the person assumed that they didn't need a permit. I don't know if you've seen these sheds. These sheds are half finished. They don't comply with any codes, whether they be electrical, plumbing, or otherwise. They have nothing in them. It's a shell. It's, if you ever remember the old Jim Walter homes, that's what these are. But maybe even less than the Jim Walter homes. I would encourage you not to approve this request. I don't know if all the issues have been resolved with the shed that we approved at the previous meeting, but just based on what took place after the approval, would tend to have staff look at it very, very strictly for the safety of the community. In that particular situation, an unlicensed electrician, an unlicensed plumber, obviously it was a homemade kind of patch job, and we ended up having to force the issue to even have our inspections take place. There was already a utility connection there with a TPO, so before we knew it, the individual had already connected to the electricity. When that happens, if the city turns a blind eye to the situation where you know that the people are not meeting code, where you know that the inspections haven't been done, at some point the city assumes liability for what happens in that home and what happens to the neighbors should something tragically happen. Because all of this is done without approval, and there isn't any normal process where somebody has certified that the home meets a certain standard. You passed an ordinance that happened many years ago, before I ever got here, and you adopted the International Building Codes of 2006. You adopted the building codes for electrical use. You've adopted building codes for plumbing. So all of these things fly in the face of what these people do when they bring in one of these sheds. So I would recommend that you not approve the shed and that we not encourage others in similar situations to bring sheds like this that we have not allowed in the past, and the exception was made last time because of a hardship case. And I understand the plight of housing. You know, I'm involved as a volunteer with nonprofit housing corporations. In fact, I'm president of one and volunteer with another on a board, and I understand the need, but there's a right way to help, and I think there's a wrong way to help, and I believe this is the wrong way.
And Mayor, I just would concur in.
Are the other individuals already hooked up to water and sewer, city water and sewer?
I believe they are.
I would concur in everything that Mr. Dovalina says, and I would like to add that it appears that this structure, which may or may not have already been purchased, is being sold here locally, and I would strongly concur with Larry's pronouncements in that you don't want to encourage the vendor of the structures to, and I'm not saying they are doing it, but you know, to be able to tell people that, oh yeah, the city will let you live in these things, and use that perhaps as a way to exacerbate the problem with more people turning to this option. If I recall right, the last time, I think we still, even though we let them do it, they still had to meet code, you know, and so it wasn't like a blanket, oh, I'll go move in a shed. And look, let's be honest. People are going to have to they need shelter, they're going to go where they have to go, and if they take it upon themselves to make an illegal cross connection on a water and sewer and on electricity, they get like you said, an unlicensed person to do it. Those things are going to happen, but the city shouldn't sanction it. And in the event that it is discovered, the city does have the ability to remedy the situation. But I couldn't agree more with what Larry said. It's a symptom of a much bigger problem that, as members of the council, everybody in here is fully aware of it. But I think that it is something, again, that even if you said, hey, well, they got to meet the building codes, they're not going to be able to do it, and it's just going to create a prolongation of a problem that could be potentially nixed this evening.
Councilman, any discussion on what Mr. Dovalina and Mr. Peña have said?
This is just a sales shed, right?
Yes. Doesn't have anything in it. I don't think they even have walls, except for the exterior walls.
Have they been explained that they have to pass that code?
No, most of these people believe that when they come here to council and you give them approval, that means that they don't have to do anything. And they pretty much do whatever they think they need to do.
Even if we tell them to hire a licensed electrician, they...
And it's like, well, I don't want to compare it to anything, but people come with the expectation, and you give them the approval, and I think the only thing they're listening for is the approval, and in fact they don't listen to the rest of the verbiage when you tell them that it needs to meet certain codes, because maybe they don't know what we're talking about. They don't know anything about an electrical code. They don't know anything about a building code. People that are involved in construction, people that are involved in development, you can tell them and they understand, but you're talking to an ordinary citizen who's not involved in those issues, and so when you say you need to meet code or whatever, they assume that when they go purchase the item at the business, wherever it is that it gets sold, that they in fact meet those things that they're telling you, and they in fact come with a piece of paper and say, look, I just got it and it was built whenever, and we say, yeah, but it doesn't meet codes. And you put up the sheetrock on the walls, and you put the wiring on the walls, and we haven't even seen how the wiring was put together, or who put it together, or who got the permit to do the things, and we haven't had a chance to inspect it. And so the possibilities that it is substandard, and in fact you may be doing those individuals a disservice by approving it, because at some point in the future there could be a tragedy in that house, and somebody can turn and say, you guys approved it.
Or even to add to what Mr. Dovalina said, they're purchasing a particular structure. Obviously, the biggest reason, of course, would be money, and then they can't get what they need to get in order to occupy it. And so even if they were able to do the required additional additions, the wiring and all that, it may end up costing them more than if they had purchased perhaps a used trailer or something of that sort. So what they're thinking is saving them money, you're actually hurting them, because at the end of the day, it may be more and it may not even be fit for habitation in the long term. And again, I don't know what these companies are telling them. They may be saying, hey, that's a tool shed, that you're not supposed to live in that thing, and I don't know. I doubt that they're being marketed as homes.
They're being marketed as cabins. That's what it is. That's what it
I
says
mean,
here.
that's what you put your workshop in, or, park your lawnmower in. You're not supposed to live in the thing.
Any further discussion, Councilman? If not, I need a motion to approve item number 16. No motion was done. I need a first motion to deny.
You don't need
Yeah,
that.
but there was no motion to approve.
There's no
it.
motion, the motion dies.
There was no motion on item number 16, so the motion dies. Moving on to item number 18, closed section. Texas Government Code and Section 551.071, number 1, number 2, consultation with attorney. Tax Government Code and Section 551.072, deliberating about real property.
You're going to read the items.
Item number 1, pending litigation, Anderson, Columbia, retainage. Item number 2, purchase of real property belonging to Ernestina V. Garza, located at 101 East Johnston Street, Lot 4, Block 7, LaSalle Addition. Number 3, Luis Ayala Jr. versus the City of Cotulla, etc. AI number 2020-02-0035 CV
That's enough.
in District Court 81 Judicial.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll need to retire to a someplace.
It is now
Closed
9:01. Taken, but
Yeah,
no
we're,
action
we're
needed
back
on-
in open, or when they're ready, we're back in open session.
You ready?
Okay, we're back in open session. It is now 9:31.
And there was no action taken on the consultation with attorney or the real property in closed session.
There was no action taken in the property or in closed sessions.
So Mayor,
So-
if there's any action on item number 1, you would ask for a motion to deny the claim for the retainage, authorizing me to write the letter.
Write the letter.
I always run it by Mr. Dovalina first before it goes out, but I would ask for that motion. And then on the second one,
Let me get to that one.
okay,
Okay, on the one, on number 1, for Anderson Columbia retainage, I need a motion to deny.
I'll make a motion.
First motion made by Mr. Ayala. Need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lopez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 2, the real property I need a motion to instruct Mr. Dovalina to proceed with making an offer on this property,
so
to
that
try
would,
to obtain it,
right, that would be up to the appraised value as in the appraisal, LaSalle.
not to
County
exceed the appraised value of LaSalle County.
Of the two properties.
And it is 2 properties. So,
I'll entertain a motion.
first motion made by Mr. Garcia, second made by Mr. Lopez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
And there's no action
No
on the
action
third
needed on number 3. So, there's no further discussion on that. We move on to item number 20. And meeting is adjourned.